Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
Broadcasting around the world.
Well, hello.
This is your number one internet radio station.
Good evening, TC Talks. Back after a week off last week. I was slacking last week and lounging about at home. A few things to deal with, so good evening. Welcome, Rich.
Good evening, Tom.
We've no Niall tonight. Niall's sadly not with us this evening. He did have a good excuse tonight, so we'll let him off with that one. But tonight we're going to be talking about parenting. This is a subject that I think I'm qualified for this one, Rich. I've got four porridge munchers, so I should be all right with this one. So I think there's nothing worse than getting parenting advice off people who don't have kids. And sometimes that's where we get our advice from. Not that I'm going to give you much advice, because I'm like most parents, I'm getting it wrong most of the time, but we're trying. So tonight we're just going to be talking about, your experiences of first becoming a parent. We're going to talk about, some of the things you've done as a parent, how you've changed as a parent, because I think that's important as well. Because my first child, I was Mason. He's 22 next week. You know what I mean? So I've changed a lot in my parenting style and who I am as a person in those 22 years. So you've got to change as a parent. You've got to adapt. You've got to find your way as a parent. And nobody tells you that before you have kids. You just get thrown into it. So a lot of it is learning on the job, which is probably the best way to do it. But as always, we're going to start the show with an Irish tune, and this is not really linked to parenting at all. We're just going to go for a bit of Hosier and Take Me to Church.
My lover's got humor. She's the giggle at a funeral. Knows everybody's disapproval. I should've worshipped her sooner. If the heavens ever did speak, she's the last true mouthpiece. Every Sunday's getting more bleak. A fresh poison each week. We were born sick, you heard them say it. My church offers no absolutes. She tells me worship in the bedroom. The only heaven I'll be sent to is when I'm alone with you. I was born sick, but I love it. Command me to be well. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Shout
you're back with TC Talks live on Smile Radio.
Who's here?
I
I never know how to say his name because I'm not down with the kids. Is it Hosier or Hosier?
Who's it? I don't know. I think it's Hoosier, isn't it? But I'm not down with them either.
It's my show. I can say it like I want.
Yeah, exactly. No.
His name's Tommy. That's him. No, he's playing in Leeds or is it Sheffield this year? Niall was talking about him last night. He's going to go and see him in concert. So he's doing the rounds at the minute. Parenting. So this is how it's supposed to work, guys. You meet your childhood sweetheart. You have a courtship, as they used to call it. Do you remember what it used to be called? Courting. Are you courting, lad? Are you courting? So you have a courtship. You go and get mum and dad's approval. You have an engagement party. You buy a really nice ring. You look at houses, but you don't move in yet because that's not allowed. You've got to save all that for the special night. You have a nice wedding where you invite everyone along and the whole village comes out, and it's a really nice wedding, and the dad gives a lovely speech and the best man gives a nice speech, and you move into your nice new home, and hey presto, 9 months later you have a nice little bundle of joy. Now that's how it's supposed to work. Now we're both laughing here because I think in reality we all know that this is no longer the 1930s. This doesn't happen anymore, or it certainly doesn't happen in my life. It might happen for some people, but it certainly doesn't happen for me. The realities are very different. I don't know about you guys, but finding out you're going to have a child, or even planning to have a child, unless you're very organised, and believe me, I definitely wasn't organised when I was younger, organising or planning having a child was not on me. And this isn't to say that my children, because they weren't planned, they weren't loved. That's nonsense. I'm not saying that. But it doesn't always work out the way it's supposed to. And certainly for me, my eldest boy, I was in my wild child days. I just come back from Australia. I was hitting the nightclubs pretty hard. Met a lovely young lady from Barnsley. And 9 months later we had a son. And it was how would I describe finding out I was going to have a son? I'm scary as hell. I was scared. I don't know about anyone else. Were you scared, Rich, when you first found out you were having a child?
I wouldn't say scared. It was when Lily came along, we went through IVF, and it was a massive struggle for us.
Yeah.
So there were almost a relief. I think probably when I was a bit younger or a bit worried, looking over my shoulder, but that's another story. But no, I'd say probably more relieved because of. And not so much for myself, it was more for Fiona, my first wife. But it's. So
were you a little bit older when you had your?
Yeah, I was in my 30s. Yeah,
you were in your 30s. So I was a 23-year-old.
Jesus Christ!
I think I was 23. No, I wasn't. I was 22. I was 22 when I had Mason because he's 22 next week. So I was 22 years of age. Like I said, I just come back from Australia. I'd had 6 months living in Australia, working in. Sunning myself and getting drunk and doing all sorts of things I shouldn't have been doing. And I'd honestly planned to probably go off and do a bit more travelling and just bum around for another couple of years. And I had no real plans to do anything. I wasn't a graduate or anywhere. I wasn't a university graduate. I was just literally wanting to enjoy that period of my life. And all of a sudden, I had this little boy who needed me as a father. And I'll be honest with you, that was a bit of a shock. That was one of those things that you just think to yourself, how am I going to do this? Because we never get sat down. I can only speak as a dad here. We never get sat down and get told how to be a dad. We have to watch how to be a dad. And for me, that wasn't really available to me, because my father had gone when I was 13. So we didn't have that skill set of what a dad was supposed to do, especially because I wasn't with his mum. I wasn't even in a relationship by the time I was born with his mum. So there's no real manual that says this is how we're going to do it. This is how you look after a child with a woman that you're no longer in a relationship with. There's no manual for that. So it's like, well, what do you do? When do I see him? who's in charge of feeding? What do you do? You know, can I take them to my house? Am I allowed to do these things? And I think that's the modern world that we live in, is that a lot of children are born into a household where it's not traditional. You know, where they are almost instantaneously not passed from pillar to post, but there is a period of time where you have to find your way, let it settle down, and it was pretty traumatic. But I remember thinking to myself, right, nappies, and this I hear it now when I look at TV programs and they show dads struggling with nappies. Because let's be right about it, man, it's not that difficult, is it?
No.
It really isn't, you know what I mean? And they make it look as though, don't get me wrong, it's not the nicest thing you ever do, is it?
No, given the choice.
But it is one of those things that you just go, what's the big deal here? But I do remember thinking to myself, right, I had little brothers. It can't have changed that much since my little brothers were around, and it hasn't. You know what I mean? That sort of changing nappies, feeding. Do you think it comes natural to be a father or be a parent, or do you think that there's something that has to be learned? The initial, I know what I'm doing here.
No.
Even though you don't know what you're doing, do you think there's something built in us that we know how to look after?
I think it's your maternal and paternal instinct just kicks in. It's just, I think the overbearing thing is you want to protect, and this becomes worse as you get older. We've all got instances with loved ones who we probably be all guilty of overprotecting. But I think there's something inbuilt that just kicks in, you know.
It is fascinating, you know. We're almost, you know, we class ourselves as, you know, we're human, we're better than all the animals, but it's the exact same as animals, isn't it? We literally just protect our cubs, and we step up. Most of us step up. I know there'll be somebody screaming at the radio going, "Not my man, he didn't step up, he just went out, he ran off." I'm sorry if that happened to you, it's just where it happens sometimes. But there is that initial thing of, right, what do I do? And you almost fall into it automatically and go, right, this is what I'm supposed to do. But you will get things wrong. I think there's any new parents out there, the initial few days, don't stress it if you get it wrong. If you get the feed times wrong, if you get the changing of the nappies wrong, if you get the winding wrong, it's just one of those things. I think it does come with time.
I can remember when Lily was born, Fiona had to have an emergency cesarean, and she was poorly and got infected twice. And I think for the first 10, 11 weeks, I did everything apart from breastfeed for obvious reasons. But even then, I latched her on, you know. So the bond that I have with Lily, you know, I was, apart from the doctors when they opened the sunroof and pulled her out. I've never heard it described as that, Richard. You're probably going to get in trouble for that. Probably. She's not going to be listening, are they?
Welcome to Chauvinist FM.
But yeah, when they passed her to me, and I can remember, even like now, I'm getting a bit. I know we're joking, but I remember when the nurse passed her to me, and we didn't even know we were having a girl or a boy. We didn't have no idea, and they passed it. Oh, congratulations, got a little girl, and I wept. I unconsolable. I went with joy. It wasn't.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, and I've touched on this with Marie and other mothers, and to say that the love I have for my daughter, I can't even begin to comprehend the love a mother must have for a child, having to bear, carry, and give birth. You know, but I think from that point on, I mean, I bathed her, I fed her, I changed her. I mean, she was only £5.13. She was only a little, tiny little thing. Yeah. But I can remember it as if it was yesterday. I mean,
I wasn't there for my eldest son's birth, but I was there for the other three. And I'll be honest with you, I was still drinking in those days, so my memory's not great. But I vividly remember Orla, because I was working in Northern Ireland at the time, and I'm going to tell the Northern Ireland story. Sorry if Orla's listening. Sorry. Working in Northern Ireland, Zoe rang me to tell me that she was going into labour at 6 o'clock on a morning, and I'm in Belfast. So it's all right, no problem. I'll get home as soon as I can. So straight to the airport. Meanwhile, my brother-in-law driving her to the hospital. So I managed to get to the airport and explain to them what was happening, and they held security open, And I literally was running through saying, this is not a joke. My wife's having a baby. I need to get through security. You know, it was like something from a Faulty Towers scene. So it was literally, John Cleese-esque, running through the airport, bashing people out of the way. And to be fair to everyone that was in the line that day, they got out of the way. Managed to get on the plane. Literally, they held the door for me. Got on the plane at it was around about, I think it was a 6:30 or 7 o'clock flight. I was landed in Leeds, Bradford at 8. And I was in LGI for, I think it was 8:45. And Zoe had only just arrived. So I managed to get from Belfast quicker than she'd got from Wakefield. And I knocked on the door, and the nurse was saying, who are you? I said, well, I'm here with Zoe Soden. I says, she's having a baby. And she says, you can't be, he's in Belfast. He's still flying over from Northern Ireland. I says, no, I'm here. I managed to get here. And thankfully I did, because Orla came 2 hours later. She wasn't a long labour. She was delivered at 11 o'clock. But just what you're saying there about the emotion around seeing your child born, and I know the women aren't privy to the view that we get.
Yeah.
Because the view that we get is still maintained. It's a very special view.
Yeah.
And it's when you witness a child being born, you try to explain it to younger men of how you're going to feel, and even tough men, and you say to them, no, you'll end up crying like a baby, and they go, no, not me. And literally, I've never met a man yet that hasn't shed a tear. And I mean, I'm a blubbering wreck at the best of times, but I was an absolute wreck. I was destroyed.
Do you know what I've noticed since Lily's come along? I've seen me welling up at bleeding adverts, and I'm not even joking. And I never cried at anything. I mean, literally anything. Even when my mum died and we were at her funeral, I didn't cry. I mean, I had moments on my own, but in front of anybody, I didn't do that. But since Lily came along, I'm not even joking. I'm sometimes an emotional wreck. He said, "What's all that?"
It wasn't like
Where's
that.
that come from?
It wasn't like that for me for the two boys, but certainly for when Orla came along. Maybe it's about having a daughter,
Maybe.
as a parent or as a father. And I'm sorry, guys, if we're talking about being fathers, but I don't know if you've noticed, me and Rich are both fathers. So it's one of those things that I think maybe it's different when you have a girl. I don't know if anyone's out there listening who would agree with that or disagree with that, but I definitely find it more emotional when Orla was born. That knowing that there was a little girl out there that needed her father's love and attention and protection. And I think that's the chauvinist in me, that's the male pride in you that comes in and says, nobody's going to hurt my daughter. That sort of thing that comes in. But also that showing that your emotions around your daughter. It's a little bit easier, I think. And I've got 3 boys. I think I found it easier to show my emotions around Orla. And I don't know whether that's just because she's a girl or what, I don't know.
The funny thing as well, Tom, I never wanted children. I enjoyed, nieces, nephews, and friends' children, and I'm great with them, give them back, happy days, I've got 4 now. Well, between me and Maria now,
yeah.
We've got 4, and I love them. 3 of them aren't mine, but they're my family.
I'm going to quote a friend of mine, Kev. Kev came out with this before I had children, and he said this to me because he was on his 4th, I think, by that stage. And Kev says, when you've had 1, you might as well have half a dozen because your life's over anyway. So, and I took that as gospel. Because for me, it definitely, I didn't set out when I was 22. I don't think there's many young lads who do set out at 22 if they're not in a stable relationship to have children. But once the children came along, I was very much committed to that whole parenting journey. But then reality kicks in. Because here's the thing, we all set out saying we're going to be the best parents in the world. And the reality of that is very different. Somebody put on Facebook today, Kirsty, put on, it's like a big roller coaster ride, and I replied to her, yeah, scream if you want to go faster, because no matter what happens, those kids will throw things at you that you're never going to understand. They'll fall over. The first time your child, I don't know if I'll maybe not say this because I might get in trouble with social services, but has your child ever fallen down the stairs?
Touch wood, no. But
I'm not going to jinx
yeah.
Lily here, sorry Lily. But I think if you're a parent out there, if you every now and again your child falls down the stairs, the first time that happens you feel so much guilt and so much anguish, and you think to yourself, oh my goodness, I've just killed my child because I didn't close the gate. Then you find out the gate wasn't secured properly, and then you've more guilt. Thankfully no child was harmed in this falling down the stairs. It was okay. The tumble dryer broke their fall. That's why you should always put the tumble dryer at the bottom of the stairs. It's got a softer door. It doesn't anymore though. They've all got these fancy glass doors now, haven't they?
Yeah.
The good old doors. Bring back the softer tumble dryer door for your child to fall down the stairs. Shouldn't laugh, but I'm sorry, but that's what happens. But yeah, it is. You start worrying then about every little thing. You worry about them picking bugs up. You worry about them. Although I was never one of those parents who was a clean fanatic. I'm a firm believer in them just playing in mud if they need to, getting out and getting mucky. Not sure what was that?
It's Siri kicking in.
Oh, right, sorry. Siri's kicking in. Why is that kicked in there? Did I say something? That scared me there. Maybe it said I don't understand. Maybe it's the tumble dryer thing. It's put me off now. I don't know what I was saying. Yeah, it is one of those things though that we haven't got that that manual for when they hurt themselves or pick up bugs, and when they get sick and poorly, and you start thinking to yourself, well, do we go to A&E? Do we not go to A&E? What would you be, Rich? Would you be an over cautious parent, or would you be like me going, yeah, they'll be right, we'll see what
I would pretty, and blow me on trumpet, I'd like to think I'm pretty good in a crisis. When Lily were really, really young, I can't remember how old she was, but maybe 18 months, maybe a bit older actually. She got really poorly. She had a massive high temperature, and basically she took her went straight to A&E because she was a temperature of 110. She could potentially start fitting and all the rest of it. Anyway, we get through, went into triage. Anyway, there were a rash, which straight away, and all I heard was meningococcal. And then, literally Fiona were in a complete mess. She was dehydrated. They had to do a blood test. They couldn't get blood, and they were trying to get blood samples out of her toes. And at 18 months, she was screaming the heart. And I won't repeat what I said, because Fiona was just hysterical. And I just basically took control. I said, right, get her out, in so many words. I held her, and I must admit, for 45 minutes, and the doctor kept saying, screaming's good, this is good. If she wasn't screaming, she would, all I could think of in my head. And anyway, fortunately, it turns out what they said, it was an inner ear infection or something ridiculous. But
but to you,
the rash, they did the glass thing, and it didn't go, and straight away. But then they pumped her through with a domestos of antibiotics, and I remember, I never forget. And at that point, I was smoking, man. I know it's not ideal, but I stopped about 6 years ago. But anyway, I bumped into a lad called Ian Malkinson, Molly. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, bless him. But and he just says, "How are you doing?" And I completely broke down. I was in a mess because I were away from it all. I'm getting back to your initial question. I'm quite, come on, get on with it. You'll be right. I'd try not to mollycoddle too much.
Yeah. Because there are parents out there that are first sign of a cold, snivel, they're down at the doctors, they're trying to get antibiotics into them. And thankfully now the doctors are starting to fight back. They're starting to say, no, come on, you don't need these. And I think sometimes, but again, that goes back to, there's no manual for this. There's no manual for parenting. And sometimes, and again, I would never be over-critical of a parent who decides to take a child to doctors, because you don't know what their experience of childhood has been. So I think it has to be their own way. We were certainly brought up with a more robust way of dealing with things. If you were poorly, you went to bed, you sweated it out, you got brought chicken soup. If you were really poorly, chicken soup, like, that's box standard. It's the law. and it fixes everything. Chicken soup and a bottle of Lucas here with a wrapper on
Yeah,
it.
the orange cellophane.
Yeah, do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
So
Yeah.
every parent, certainly in Ireland, I'm sure it was the same in Yorkshire, as soon as your child was sick, and it turns out it's not the best thing to give your child. It's not, you know what I mean? It turns out now, when you look back, it's like, why would you give them Lucozade? Just sing them up.
Yeah.
But we did. So, chicken soup, and it was a Campbell's chicken soup.
Campbell's, yeah.
Nice bit of Campbell's chicken soup, So, it was very rare you went to the doctors. You almost had to be dying before you went to the doctors when I was a kid. And thankfully for us, we were never in that situation. But there's no manual. I think that's the thing that I'm really focusing on today, is that how do we learn this stuff? Is it just as simple as you get through by the skin of your teeth?
I think you do. I genuinely think you do, because I look back and sleep deprivation. I've never ever. Lily was 2.5, I think, before she properly started sleeping through.
Well, yeah, I'm going to give you a little tip on this one, Rich. And this is where being a chauvinist works. All right? Because if Zoe's listening, she will kill me if I say, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, Richard. I know about sleep deprivation. I never missed a night's sleep. And here's another little tip. See this paternity stuff that you take? Don't take it straight away. Leave her for 6 weeks, because they don't want you around. Go away.
But the problem I had, Tom, is literally I had to do everything. Because Fiona was better, and she got took back into hospital because it got infected.
Yeah.
And the back out. So I was literally, honestly, doing everything to the point where, and I'm not gone on. I'm going on a different tangent right now. But talking about sleep deprivation, I've never, when you hear these horror stories where parents check the children, and I was literally, I was nearly one of them parents. I mean, she'd not slept, and I remember driving. And I can, as if you just, I'm closing my eyes now. Good radio. I'm closing my eyes, and I remember seeing the sign for Badsworth. And at that point, we lived at Horbury, bottom of Benton Hill in Horbury. I have no recollection of getting from Horbury to Badsworth, and I was on autopilot. I got back, I got Lily. And this must have been about 3-4 o'clock in the morning. Only time she slept was in the car, the little so and so. And it gets back in, takes the car seat in, puts her in, gets in the lounge. And because she was kind of slumped a little bit, I thought I'll just try and adjust her. Unclipped the belt, that was it. Eyes wide open, and then she started crying. And literally, I grabbed hold of her and I put her on the sofa. And again, I won't repeat what I said. Will you please just go to sleep? And I was crying. Tom, I'm not lying. And I got to that point and I was literally, I could have completed that split second, and then I put cushions around her on the sofa. I shut the lounge door, went into the kitchen, shut the dining room door, and I sobbed, and then I composed myself and managed to get back. But nothing prepares you. But I got through it. I don't know how the hell I did it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can understand. And I know we're not. You never condone losing your child.
No.
But it is. I think we've all been at that point. We've all been close to being angry beyond belief.
Yeah.
And because you don't have the skills to cope with it.
No.
And you don't have, and certainly my parenting of Oliver, who's my 4th child, is very different to my parenting with Mason. And that's not because I love them any differently. I love them all, with all my heart. But my skill set and the toolbox that I have now as a parent it's got a lot more in it than it had when I was 22. And that's no excuse for being a rubbish dad. That's about me saying, hold on here, this is the way I knew to parent, and it's different now because I've got more tools in the box. And you only learn and you only get those tools by going through experiences like you've just described, of knowing the next time when you take her out of the child seat not to disturb her while you're taking her out, and you learn little tricks that you can do, or take the actual seat out. You know what I mean? So there's all different tricks in it. It's a lot easier now with the new equipment, but it is, you learn these tricks and techniques as you become a parent further down the line. And if you have more children, those children benefit greatly from those tools that you put in your box. Right, we're going to have a break.
Yeah.
And I've chosen this one because, I absolutely love Andrea Bocelli. His voice is just simply beautiful. But this one is with his son, and the way, if you watch the video on YouTube, the way these two guys interact and the photographs from when they were younger, I think this father and son relationship looks pretty perfect to me. So this is Andrea and Matteo Bocelli and Fall on Me. Enjoy.
I thought sooner or later the lights up above will come down in circles and God made a love. But I don't know what's right for me, I cannot see straight. I've been here too long and I don't wanna wait for it. Fly like a cannonball straight to my soul. Tear me to pieces and make me feel whole. I'm willing to fight for it and carry this weight. But with every step I keep questioning what is true. Fall on me with open arms. Fall on me from where you are. Fall on me with all your light, with all your light, with all your light. Presto una luce ti illuminerà, seguila sempre, guidarti saprà. Tu non arrenderti, attento a non perderti, e il tuo passato avrà senso per te. Vorrei che credessi in te stesso, ma sì, in ogni passo che muoverai qui è un viaggio infinito, sorriderò se nel tempo che fugge mi porti con te. Fall on me, ascoltami. Fall on me, abbracciami. Fall on me, finché vorrai, finché vorrai, finché vorrai, finché vorrai. I close my eyes and I'm seeing you everywhere. I step outside, it's like I'm breathing you in the air. I can feel you're there. Fall on me, ascoltami. Fall on me, abbracciami. Fall on me with all your light, with all your light, with all your light.
Absolutely fantastic.
It's a beautiful tune. I was just saying you can lose yourself in that.
Well, also when you, I've got a man love for Matteo Bocelli, because he can sing like an angel and looks like a god. You know what I mean? He's just got everything. Ladies, check him out on YouTube, and men, because he's I've got a bit of man love for him. But just his Bocelli's voice, Andrea Bocelli's voice, is just for me an absolute, you know, so haunting at times. You know, fantastic. Anyway, I'm talking to music, and I shouldn't be talking music because I know nothing about music. All right, I know nothing about parenting either, but I'm going to give it a go. You know what I mean? So. We'll talk about the manual that we've discussed that we don't have, and I think it's important that we talk about the mistakes that we've made. Certainly, I as a father learn every day of things that I should have done differently, things that I could have done differently, things that I need to do differently, and I think that's. If you spend too much time on any of those, you lose yourself as a parent. You know, if you're figuring out what you could, should, and need to do, you lose your day-to-day parenting skills. I certainly have beaten myself up over the last few years of things that I should have done with my eldest boy, Mason, and he's turned out all right. He's okay. He's a good guy. He's a manager of a bar, and he's a good guy. And sometimes you need to just ease up on yourself as a parent. There'll be lots of parents out there tonight who will be collapsed, thinking that everyone's doing it better than them. And here's the little secret that nobody tells you: is we're all messing it up. We're all getting it wrong, and not intentionally. Some of us are good at the emotion. Some of us are good at the discipline. Some of us are good at the education. But not everyone's good at everything.
Yeah.
And I think we realise that, you know. And I think Facebook and social media sometimes throws out this, and I've noticed this as well, that we post out things about our families that are great. You know, little Johnny got an A in his maths. We don't talk about when little Johnny got, you know, his phone confiscated for Snapchatting somebody in the middle of the lesson. We don't talk about, you know, we talk about the good performances at football matches. Or, you know, or Oliver was the man of the match at his last rugby game or whatever. Mm-hmm. We don't, very rare a post on it. Well, although I did post on it, to be fair, I am good at this. I did post on one time, and I took a lot of stick for it. When Oliver had a really bad game, and I took loads of stick for this. But I was frustrated that he didn't realise how much you put in as a parent, especially in sport. Any parents out there who have got a child in sport will realise this, that, you know, you take them to training 2 or 3 times a week, you give up your Saturdays so they can play, and then they turn up and don't do anything. Literally, like, stand there and don't do anything. And I got really mad one day. I put it on Facebook. I got slaughtered for it. And I was like, well, no, that's the truth. That's how I felt that day, is that my son completely disrespected everything I'd done as a parent. And with hindsight, I realised that he's just being 12. It's all right. It's okay for him to be like that. You can't, you know what I mean? But it's also okay as a parent, and I'm going to give you permission here, guys. It's also okay as a parent to absolutely slam your kids every now and again. You know what I mean? If you want to do it publicly on Facebook, slam them. And there's a friend of mine, I'm not going to name her now, who absolutely rips her son to pieces. And he, quite freely on Facebook. Now, thankfully, her son's not on Facebook because he's too young, but she rips him. And I think she uses it as an excuse and as a vent to go, I'm really struggling with this. And she throws it out there of what he's done. I absolutely howl after, because I think it's brilliant that she's so confident in her own parenting skills that she can throw that out there, knowing that she's actually in control. She's got this under control. So I do have a lot of respect for people who do that. But some of the stuff that she puts out there is absolutely brilliant. It's hilarious what he gets up to. And I'm not gonna spoil this for you, but I think she'll probably know who I'm talking about. You see. And in order to try and highlight this about how we all continue to make mistakes, I'm going to read something that was written 100 years ago. I believe this was written 100 years ago. And it's going to take me a while to read it, so bear with me. But the reason I want to read this is it gets across the message that sometimes we forget what they're going through as children, but also we forget that we're human as well. So this is called Father Forgets, and hopefully I'll be able to read this without making a complete mess of it. So it goes on for a few minutes, but Father Forgets. Listen, son, I am saying this as you lie asleep, one little paw crumpled under your cheek, and the blonde curls stickily wet on your damp forehead. I have stolen into your room alone. Just a few minutes ago, as I sat reading my paper in the library, a stifling wave of remorse swept over me. Guilty, I came to your bedside. There are things I was thinking, son. I had been cross to you. I had scolded you as you were dressing for school because you gave your face merely a dab with a towel. I took you to task for not cleaning your shoes. I called out angrily when you threw some of your things on the floor. At breakfast, I found fault too. You spilled things. You gulped down your food. You put your elbows on the table. You spread butter too thick on your bread. And as you started off to play, and I made for my train, you turned and waved a hand and called, "Goodbye, Daddy." And I frowned, and I said in reply, "Hold your shoulders back." Then it began all over again in the late afternoon. As I came up the road, I spied you down on your knees, playing marbles. There were holes in your trousers. I humiliated you before your boyfriends by marching you ahead of me. Trousers were expensive, and if you had to buy them, you would have been more careful. Imagine that, son, from a father. Do you remember later when I was reading in the library how you came timidly with a sort of a hurt look in your eyes? When I glanced up over my paper, impatient at the interruption, you hesitated at the door. "What is it you want?" I snapped. You said nothing, but ran across in one tempestuous plunge and threw your arms around my neck and kissed me, and your small arms tightened with an affection that God had set blooming in your heart, and which even neglect could not wither. And then you were gone, pattering up the stairs. Well, son, it was shortly afterwards that my paper slipped from my hands, and a terrible sickening fear came over me. What has habit been doing to me? The habit of finding fault, of reprimanding. This was my reward for your being a boy. It was not that I did not love you, it was that I expected too much of youth. I was measuring you by a yardstick of my own years. And there was so much that was good and fine and true in your character. The little heart of you was as big as the dawn itself over the wide hills. This was shown by your spontaneous impulse to rush and kiss me goodnight. Nothing else matters tonight, son. I have come to your bedside in darkness, and I have knelt there ashamed. It is a feeble atonement, and I know you would not understand these things if I told them to you during your waking hours. But tomorrow I will be a real daddy. I will chum with you and suffer when you suffer, and laugh when you laugh. I will bite my tongue when impatient words come. I will keep saying, as if it was a ritual, he is nothing but a boy, a little boy. I am afraid I have visualized you as a man. Yet as I see you now, son, crumpled and weary in your cot, I see that you are still a baby. Yesterday you were in your mother's arms, your head on her shoulder. I have asked too much. Too much.
That's beautiful.
I just thought I'd share that, and that's something I was read at a men's group meeting many years ago, and it kind of highlighted to me that sometimes we do expect too much from our children. We want them to grow up too quickly. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, let's just pause that thought and we'll listen, play this next song, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about that.
No problem.
A child arrived just the other day. He came to the world in the usual way, but there were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away. And he was talking for I knew it, and as he grew, he'd say, I'm gonna be like you, Dad. You know I'm gonna be like you. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. You know we'll have a good time then. My son turned 10 just the other day. He said, thanks for the ball, Dad, come on, let's play. Can you teach me to throw? I said, not today, I got a lot to do. He said, that's okay, and he walked away, but his smile never dimmed. It said, I'm gonna be like him, yeah, you know I'm gonna be like him. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, the little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then. You know we'll have a good time then. Well, he came from college just the other day, so much like a man I just had to say, son, I'm proud of you, can you sit for a while? He shook his head and he said with a smile, what I'd really like, Dad, is to borrow the car keys. See you later, can I have them, please? And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then. I've long since retired, my son's moved away. I called him up just the other day. I said, I'd like to see you if you don't mind. He said, I'd love to, Dad, if I can find the time. You see, my new job's a hassle and the kids are the flu, but it's sure nice talking to you, Dad. It's been sure nice talking to you. And as I hung up the phone, it occurred to me, he'd grown up just like me. My boy was just like me. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. We're gonna have a good time there.
Very poignant lyrics to that, aren't there?
Yeah, it is one of those things that I've heard that song on countless occasions and never actually listened to the lyrics properly. And when you listen to the lyrics properly, you realise that our kids will grow up to be mini versions of ourselves. So if we want the next generation to be of value, then we have to remember that you know they're following what we do. I've had a lesson a few years ago when Oliver was having a few issues and we were discussing what we were going to do, and we finally came up with a solution, which was we were going to become better parents. And people forget that, you know, when little Tommy isn't behaving himself, it's not little Tommy who's got a problem, it's his parents, and it's whatever he's seeing or whatever he's experiencing. Is probably not the right environment for him, and it's something that needs to change. If your child's not responding, and that's my only bit of parent advice, if your child's not responding to something, ask a different question. You know, take a different tact. Don't do the same thing over and over again, expecting that different result. You know, you've got to ask a different question. And for me, that song is all about realising that your children will just follow in your footsteps. So if you want a different outcome, you've got to change. How many times have you heard people say, oh, my daughter, I don't want her to marry a man like me? Well, if you don't want her to marry a man like you, then you've got to change. Because your daughter's, the first person your daughter loves is her dad. Yeah. You know, so you've got to change. You know, as parents, we've got to realise the significance and the impact we have on our children. And we're going to get it wrong. We get that bit. We're going to make mistakes. You're going to chastise them. You're going to forget about what they actually need because you've got to pay the bills and you've got to go out and work hard. And like the guy in the poem, he's focused on raising a good, solid individual. But every now and again, you've got to look at them and go, hold on here. Only kids.
A boy.
Yeah, it's just
There's
a boy or a girl.
Yeah.
The little ones. So I can't believe we're almost at the end of the show. Come on then, Rich. Your final parenting advice. Any parenting tip?
I think it's what you've just touched on there. I think you can adopt in any kind of walk of life, your work, your friends, and especially with your children. A lot of it is learnt behaviour, and if you do the same thing over and over and over again, the outcome will be the same.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff is learnt behaviour. And if you did that, I'll do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So listening to the lyrics, and I mean, I was smiling to myself and looking at Tom. Some of the lyrics, because I think we all can be guilty of forgetting, and Marie said something today about sweating the small stuff.
Yeah.
And I think we're all guilty of that. And I think that would be my parenting tip for what it's worth, is don't sweat the small stuff, and don't forget to make time. Do you know what I mean? Make time for them.
Well, yeah, I think that's definitely worth going over, sweating the small stuff, because sometimes we are so focused on making sure they've got nice holidays and nice clothes and a new phone, and that is the small stuff. Now, full disclosure here, I'm not going to go into any great detail, but my family are going through significant issues at the moment at home, and maybe one day I'll find the strength to come on and talk about what we're going through at the minute. But I just want to share this. What I've learned over the last 6 weeks while we've been going through this as a family is that nothing matters other than happiness. So I see a lot of my friends, and I'm not going to name anyone, who are focused on careers, finance, holidays, cars, houses, clothes, education, behaviour. What I've realised over the last 6 weeks is that nothing matters, only your child's happiness. And us as a family have got it wrong somewhere. That'll come out in the wash, I'm sure. That's how we feel as parents. You can't help but feel when your child appears not to be happy. You can't help but feel that it's your fault. It's not your fault. But start focusing on being happy. And happiness doesn't come from the stuff you can accumulate, the stuff that you can put in the bank, the stuff that you can sell, the stuff that you can buy. Happiness doesn't come from that. Happiness comes from those moments watching movies with your children. Happiness comes from those days out where you're actually just focused on your children. Happiness comes from telling a dad joke. Happiness comes from sharing a meal together. Happiness comes from so many other things other than material things. Stop focusing on material stuff. Start focusing on your children, focusing on the happiness. And I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you this from the bottom of my heart. I'm not trying to say that I am the best parent in the world, because over the last 6 weeks I've realised I'm not. What I have realised though is that you can make a difference in your children's lives just by showing them that bit of attention, that little bit more love, and being there for them and focusing on happiness. So
creating memories as well.
100%.
Create memories that. One thing I said, we go back at beginning of January. We're talking about New Year's resolutions and stuff, and I don't really make them, but one thing that we touched on, and I've said this to all our family, and it's not about throwing money at it or expensive weekends away or anything like that. I want to create memories.
Yeah.
Happy memories. Create happy memories.
So the word of the day and the word of the week and the word of parenting, and this is the word that they should teach you when you're 19 or 20 thinking about having kids, is focus on happiness. Because they don't teach you this at school. Nobody comes out of school going, oh, that was a happy time. Nobody does that. Nobody goes to work and comes home and goes, oh, I had a really happy day today. It was just a good day. It's not a happy day. Focus on happiness, guys. We'll hopefully see you next week. Who knows what we'll talk about next week? Because as always, I wing it as best I can. But if there is something you want me to talk about, that want to discuss, if you want to come in the studio and sit down with us and have a chat about something that you're really passionate about, something that you really want to delve deeper into, then please just hit me up on Facebook and send us a message. We'll bring you into the head office, the HQ. You might be disappointed in that one, Rich. But yeah, bring it down and we'll discuss any subject. It's TC Talks after all. All we want to do is talk about the things that nobody else wants to talk about. So, Rich, as always, I don't know if I've timed this right, or we got a little bit more time.
No, we're just about there. So we're just about
Thanks
there.
Thanks again. Hopefully, Niall will be back next week. Have a great week, and remember, stay happy.
And don't forget, if you've missed this show or any others, you can go to www.smileradio.co and click on demand and download the podcast. And all I've left to say is thanks again, TC.
And the final song tonight is a David Bowie song that nobody's probably heard of, but I certainly didn't hear about it until today. But this is called Cooks.
This is a tune. Have a great rest of the day, guys, and have a fantastic weekend. Thanks for tuning in.
Will you stay in a lover's story? If you stay, you won't be sorry, 'cause we believe in you. Soon you'll grow, so take a chance with a couple of cooks hung up on romancing. Will you stay in a lover's story? If you stay, you won't be sorry, 'cause we believe in you. Soon you'll grow, so take a chance with a couple of cooks hung up on romancing. We bought a lot of things to keep you warm and dry, and a funny old crib on which the paint won't dry. I bought you a pair of shoes, a trumpet you can blow, and a book of rules of what to say to people when they pick on you. 'Cause if you stay with us, you're gonna be pretty cookie too. Will you stay in a lover's story? If you stay, you won't be sorry, 'cause we believe in you. Soon you'll grow, so take a chance with a couple of cooks hung up on romancing. And if you ever have to go to school, remember how they messed up this old fool. Don't pick fights with the bullies or the cats, 'cause I'm not much cop at punching other people's dads. And if the homework brings you down, then we'll throw it on the fire and take the car downtown. Will you stay in a lover's story? If you stay, you won't be sorry, 'cause we believe in you. Soon you'll grow, so take a chance with a couple of cooks hung up on romancing. Will you stay in a lover's story? If you stay, you won't be sorry.